2018. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in the Borough Hall, by email to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled to same, as provided by law, of a schedule including the date and time of this meeting. I'd like to remind all members of the public we have 3 fire exits in our council chambers, 1 on each side of the dais and 1 in the rear. Roll call, please.
Councilman, where is Councilman Barloni?
Here.
Councilwoman Destoy? Here. Councilman Kamigo is absent with prior notice. Councilwoman Davis? Present. Councilman Gautier?
Here.
Okay, and Councilman Papaleo is also out with prior notice. Mayor Mignon?
Present. We have a motion to approve resolution 18-233 to go into closed session and exclude the public for discussion regarding the borough administrative personnel, Alan Negrian's retirement.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll be in closed session, and we'll open.
I don't know if you know that.
We've just come out of closed session. We're back into regular work session. For your information, Alan? Yes.
The mayor is going to have a presentation by emergency shared facilities, but I'd like to wait till all their officials are here, probably at 7 o'clock.
Okay.
But in the meantime, I think we can take SEO out tomorrow, and Joe's going to come forward too, and he's going to make a decision.
Geez, I hope so.
Corey is everybody here at this point? So we can take SEO first for an annual report.
Hey, that's this one?
Corey, why don't you come forward and wait for the judge? And we'll SEO come forward, we'll have his annual report by 5:30 time.
I'm just going to give you this quick rest of shared service in a uniform packet, which is basically insurance too.
Thank you.
Thank you. Got the county mandate about and the judges out. You guys have that as well. Or in 2 months, you can create a plan.
We have Joe Gentile and SEO Altamura.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome,
Good
gentlemen.
evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Ezio Altamuro, and my partner Joe Gentile. We're here from the Gem Otterstedt Insurance Agency to do our annual insurance review. In front of you, you have a packet. If you can just take a look on the right side, I'm going to briefly go through it. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to stop and ask me anything you need to ask me. If you look on the right side, the first page, and they're all numbered. The first page is just a little bit about who we are and what we do as your risk managers, and I do want to thank again the governing body for appointing us in 2018 as your representative to the Bergen County Municipal Joint Insurance Fund. If you go to page 2, a little background on our agency. We insure over 30 public entities. There's a short list of our clients in our area here and down in Monmouth County. At the bottom of page 2 are the resumes of the principals, my resume, and Joe's. Joe is on our safety committee in the Bergen Municipal JIF. I'm on the coverage committee, and I'm on the statewide municipal excess liability coverage committee as well. I serve on both of those committees. We make decisions on policy language and so forth. If you go to page 4, this begins the 2018 risk management plan for the Borough of Woodbridge as a member of the Bergen County JIF. Page 5 establishes the plan of risk management, which is filed with the New Jersey Department of Banking and Insurance Commission every year. Essentially, we cover the worker compensation, liability, public officials liability, employment practices liability, Optional volunteer directors and officers for your fire and ambulance service, your crime coverage for your magistrates, your judges, and so forth, your non-owned aircraft, if you have any environmental impairment, cyber, and property and equipment breakdown. If you go to page 6, some of the optional coverages that we purchased for the borough of River Edge. Number 3, we have a $5 million, what you would commonly call umbrella, above the $5 million excess liability for a total of $10 million. On number 4, we have the borough's public officials and employment practices. That's your deductible and your co-insurance, and that's one of the most preferred statuses due to your excellent claims experience. Number 5, we have optional excess public officials liability above and beyond the limits that are in number 4, which are $2 million, plus the $3 million excess for a total of $5 million. If you go to page 7, that's your optional volunteer directors and officers liability. We have you at the maximum limit of $2 million, subject to a deductible, and that covers your volunteer fire and first aid for wrongful acts, breach of duty, etc. If you go to page 8, we have cyber coverage through the Bergen County JIF. There's a $6 million first and third-party limit with a $12 million aggregate. Data breach, those are the types of items that are covered under the cyber insurance. If you go to page 9, these are some of the additional coverages that we write to the Borough of River Edge. We have an accident recreation policy. We have your fidelity bonds by statutory position, which is Linda Smith, your library treasurer, Maureen Murphy, your tax collector, and Alan as your treasurer. Plus, there's a non-statutory bond in place for an additional $1 million for everyone else who handles money that are not statutorily required to carry a bond. We have an accident and sickness policy above and beyond worker comp through VFIS, the Volunteer Fireman Insurance Services policy for your volunteer fire and ambulance. We have an accident policy for other volunteers like your board members on the bottom of page 9. Again, all with a $500,000 limit, with the VFIS one at a $400,000 limit. If you go to page 10, we have your playground summer program on an accident policy. And we have your volunteer police reserve and your citizens emergency response team covered as well. We have the quasi-entities coverage. The joint insurance fund allows you to add to the policies quasi-entities, which are, they resemble government entities, but they're not actually part of the governing body and the Borough of River Edge, and those are the ones we have listed. And our latest addition was the one we had approved for you back in 2016, which was the River Edge Swim Club. We carry flood insurance for your DPW building. If you go to page 11, for your firehouse at 55 Ackerson Street, your shade tree building, and the tool shed down at your public works facility. The joint insurance fund carries in high hazard flood zones a $500,000 deductible, thus the reason we recommend and purchase for you private flood insurance through the FEMA program. If you go to page 12, I'm just going to refer you to the left side of the packet. So the first sheet on page 12, or excuse me, on the left side of the packet, is I like to give you a historic loss run from 2014 through 2017. So this is all lines of insurance, which include worker compensation, liability. You can see the trend. So if you look, for example, at the bottom of 2015, you see the total amount of claims and the dollars that are paid or reserved. If you look at 2016, a little bit change there in paid and reserved. Then you look at 2017, you have a reduction in the amount of paid or reserved. So the Borough of River Edge is a very safe community. It's a testament to the governing body and your department heads that you run a safe community here, and your claims are very, very low in comparison to most of the members of the joint insurance fund. The other part on the left side of the packet is there is a free mobile app that the MEL puts out. It's a great tool. I go over this at your quarterly safety meetings, but that's how to install the New Jersey MEL app on your phone. You can set it up with push notifications based on just being the mayor or a council member or the administrator. It's a great tool. It's a free application. You can have a smartphone, an Android, or an iPhone. Also on the left side of the packet is where you get information And this is always sent out from our office. We send out emails to all my clients. Everyone who's on my email list gets notifications from the MEL, the Municipal Excess Liability, which is the umbrella arm of the JIP. That's the website, and those are the kinds of things you can get, all the safety information, classes, etc. And the last document on my letterhead is, if you are not on my website, or not on my email list, if you're not getting emails from me once or twice a week, you just fill that out and you can send it back to me, and I can add it to my email list. And we go through this every quarter at our safety meetings here. If you go to page 13, these are just some of the present coverages and trends, and I'm just going to highlight one or two items. Again, these items are discussed with Alan, your department supervisors, at your safety committee meetings. One of the enhancements this year is the third bullet point on page 13, and that's an additional insurance policy that the MEL put out for your planning and zoning board members. It's an additional $50,000 of coverage once your planning zoning board attorney presents the PowerPoint that the MEL puts out there. They automatically qualify for a $50,000 additional policy to cover them above and beyond what the joint insurance fund at the borough covers them for. So that's an enhancement in 2018. If you go to page 14, the other enhancement is the second to the last bullet point for fire trucks and emergency vehicles. From my coverage committee, the MEL, the statewide MEL, which has 400 members in it in New Jersey, we enhanced the replacement cost. Fire trucks used to be replacement cost 15 years or newer. Now we've added replacement cost for older than 15 years. So all your fire trucks are now covered for replacement cost, regardless of the age. That's an enhancement to this year's property policy. And the last page, on page 15, in 2017, the Borough of River Ridge was the recipient of the Bronze Award, received a check and a plaque for your safety efforts. And this is the third year in a row that the borough has received the safety award, so congratulations on that. You also received for 2017 a $14,466 dividend in response to the overall profitability of the JIP, and your increase was a little less than 1% for the year over from 2018 to 2017. And I'd just like to personally thank Alan and Stephanie and your whole borough staff for a great job that they do in working with our firm. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
Have you had an opportunity to meet our new recreation director?
I have.
Okay, sir.
And she was welcomed in our quarterly safety report. I put a nice little welcome to Carolyn. And I worked with her for the 4th of July celebration. Yeah, she's very lovely and great to work with. So, thank you, Councilman.
Anyone else have any questions, comments?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Members of the council. If you want me to stay a few minutes for your shared services.
I don't know.
If I may, I'd like to invite Corey Gallo, the Bergen Field Administrator, to come forward, as well as the other officials from Bergen Field, and ask that he make those introductions and provide us with an overview of the request for shared services. Do we need some additional chairs?
No, I think we're okay. Yeah, please, why don't you? So we have a packet for everyone. While
Thank you.
our court administrator is handing that out, I'll just introduce. My name is Corey Gallo. I'm the administrator. This is Judge Helene Herbert. Good evening. We have with us Councilman Amatorio, who came, Chief Matalone from Bergenfield PD as well, and Kim from the court. So, as it's quite commonly known, we're looking to renovate our building. We're looking at a potential target date of November to be out of our building, which requires us to have a home. This came about as a result of, we presently have an agreement, I guess, in place with the courts should there be an issue with the courts when you are out, she will have coverage with Noreen. Right. So there's that initial already of a working relationship, which prompted us to, when we started looking at this, to potentially come and hopefully have you guys assist us while we're in our transition of moving. Kim passed out basically a synopsis of the dates which we're seeking to house. We met with Alan, the chief of your department, with our chief of police, Chief Marilone, who was behind us as well, and kind of went over the logistics of the process, and that's pretty much, we understand the parameters to which your court operates, where you have roughly 65 people at a session. We won't exceed that. We'll manage our calendar accordingly to ensure that that's kind of handled. If you have any questions for us relating to the agreement or to any of those factors, the judge is here. I'm here. Obviously, we're all here for that purpose. So you're looking to begin November and maybe go approximately a year and a half? That's what the architects are telling us. And maybe our chief can weigh in. How are we going to handle this logistically? I understand you're going to use your own administrator, your own prosecutor, your own judge. Are we giving you dedicated space that's secured and dedicated to the window for your use only? When you say the window, meaning, yes, yeah. Are you sharing ours, or are you wanting to have a separate one?
But
That's only.
the setup that you have.
Yeah, just documents and to keep everything else, where you.
Well, I'll come with my court paperwork, I'll leave with my court paperwork, I'll utilize the ALC equipment, to process for court.
But Mayor, we're only going to do it on court dates. We'll still have our facility for our tickets and our people. We'll handle that during the Monday to Friday stuff. This is just for court sessions alone. And I assume you work with the chief, whether we have to have prisoner transfer or somebody temporary holding chief. Is that going to be an issue for us?
That's correct, Mayor. I've already discussed this with Chief Madelone, as well as representatives here before you. We did a walkthrough of our facilities, explain what would be needed. I won't get into the specifics of court security and open session, but we discussed security concerns. Alternative would be providing more personnel to address those concerns, and then additionally the use of our facility for holding of any prisoners during court. And we utilize it on court night. We don't anticipate the use of it on that one night per week to greatly impact our police operation.
But Bergenfield Police would have access inside our department?
That's correct. And our officers would be available to assist them. I don't feel I would need a dedicated officer assigned to that detail of Bergenfield being for.
And I assume that the agreement would cover any incurred overtime on our part if we had to have anybody work overtime. It's established in the agreement. Yes, certainly that would be covered. Another issue, I think, maybe it's a logistical issue, we deal with it every Monday and Tuesday, also is parking. We don't have a lot of parking here. Borough Hall doesn't have a lot of parking, so we need to be very mindful about impacting the local streets, blocking residents' driveways, as we've had happen in the past. Mayor, like the way your court handles, that's why we talked about the schedule. You handle 65 cases, usually a session. We would stay in track with that so that the impact would be no different than when your court would be in session. Anyone have any questions?
I don't have my calendar in front of me, but are these Wednesday nights primarily or Thursday nights?
They're all Wednesdays.
All Wednesdays.
Our courts meet on Wednesdays.
What time does a session usually go to? I saw the setups around, you start at 4.
Should start around 3.
The court starts at 4.
The court personnel would come here at 3, and our sessions would probably be about 2.5, 3 hours.
Well, so I guess the next step now, would you prepare a draft shared service agreement for the council?
We have a draft that Bergenfield used, with Borough of Dumont. They provided a similar service. So we would like to give that to our borough attorney to look at and perhaps suggest some modifications, and then get it back to you and your staff to take a look at as well.
Mr. Sorrow, just so you know, our attorney's John Scatino, so you can always contact John directly as well.
Mayor, if you have any insurance questions, Ezio and Joe are here tonight to explain, how this would work. And we are both members of the joint insurance fund, which certainly makes it a lot easier. Ezio, did you just want to make a comment?
Yes,
Please.
yes, thank you. So what I did, knowing that you had this discussion tonight, is I prepared a package for both Alan and Corey. We are the risk managers for the borough of Bergenfield as well as the borough of River Edge. So I'm very familiar with the shared services. In that packet are the exchange of insurance certificates, the mandate from the Bergen County courts where in 2016 you had to have the replacement when a judge is out, you had to have a replacement, and there's an equal exchange of certificates. It's all in that packet. So I addressed everything. Corey and Alan have duplicates of everything, so they have each other's insurance certificates. The only decision that the borough will have to make is the indemnity agreement going to be a mutual indemnity agreement, each holds the other harmless if it's a mutual agreement, or is one town going to indemnify the other? And it's never an insurance coverage issue. It's only about where the claim goes if there's a liability claim. When the magistrate is here, she's going to be covered under the borough of Bergenfield. The police officer from Bergenfield will be covered under the borough of Bergenfield if they're injured. So there's really no insurance issues. It's just a matter of where the claim gets placed. And since I'm the risk manager for both boroughs, we know where the claim's going to go depending on the agreement you sign. And I left samples of both indemnity agreements in those packets, so you can decide.
And Mayor, if I may, the trigger for that basically is whether compensation is received or not.
I put the bulletin from the mail that they put out every year on shared services in that packet, and they say to a mutual agreement. Personally, in my 30 years of experience, it's more of something that you have to decide between the two boroughs. In my opinion, if there's an equal exchange, then it's a mutual indemnification. If one's getting something over the other, then one would indemnify the other. But again, it's only where the claim gets placed. It's not a matter of insurance. The insurance is going to be covered. It's just a matter of who gets placed with the claim. And again, if Bergenfield has their employees here, they're covered under Bergenfield. There's no subrogation under Title 59. So if there's negligence and Chief Manuel is injured, for example, they pay the workers' comp. They can't come after the borough of River Edge for subrogation rights because they're two public entities. There is no subrogation. So the claim just gets assigned. That's really the only issue. And I gave you samples of both.
Just a clarification, there will be officer training and officer training. It's not part of the regular duty shift. And on overtime and compensated by Bergenfield. So at that point in time, even though they're working for Bergenfield, they're a River Edge officer in River Edge. So I don't know if that poses any. I would think it would still be covered by River Edge.
Yes. That's my opinion as well. Again, not a coverage issue. Just a matter of where the claim goes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If not, unless you have any more questions for us?
No, we're good. We thank you very much for your consideration for this, and hopefully we'll resolve this soon, and we can get on to continuing the headache of trying to rebuild a building. Check that box.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Noreen.
I don't believe you.
Thank you.
Any more for you?
No, I don't have any more ideas. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alan, thank you. Alan. Can't hear anybody talking.
And you
Most American speakers from home. I hear everybody else speak. 3 weeks and it's still having a big problem. I'm sorry? sorry, TC.
The sound is still not working properly.
We have proposals, we're working on getting it fixed. We have proposals, we're working on getting it fixed. We have to go by the public procurement process, we just can't,
So you only had to go through the bidding if it was over a certain.
you still need to get quotes, you just can't get one, you still need to get quotes, you still have to get people in to evaluate, you just can't call somebody up and do it. It also ties into when we have our TV system going also, so we have to make sure that that's also covered whenever we upgrade the microphones. But they know that they know these are priority, right, Madam Clerk? So, it will be addressed. We have 8 items on our, we have 8 items on our work session consent agenda. Item 1, change of personnel policy and procedure, section 10, subject 7, alcohol-free and drug-free workplace, general conduct. Item 2, change in personnel policy and procedure, section 10, subject 8, alcohol testing. Number 3, award contract to Robert Costa, Borough Engineer, to design plans and specifications and inspect the project for Oxford Phase 4 in the amount not to exceed $5,000. That is our CDBG funded project. Item 4, authorize Alan Spinello, our tax appeal attorney, to enter into a stipulation of settlement with River Edge Associates, 253 to 297 Kindercamack Road, and to dismiss and withdraw their complaints for the years 2013, 14, and 15. Similarly, item 5, authorize our tax appeal attorney, Alan Spinello, to enter into a stipulation of settlement with Daw and Lily Wong, 388 Mercer Avenue, for reduction in assessed value from $549,700 to $525,000 with a potential refund of $830.41. Amend the contract with DMR Architects Professional Services related to the Community Center in the amount not to exceed $4,000. Number 7, award contract to Robert Costa, Borough Engineer, for professional services related to the crosswalk at Wayne Avenue and Kindercamack Road, survey, design, and inspection in the amount not to exceed $2,500. And lastly, enter into a shared services agreement for short-term emergency sharing of fire apparatus between the county and any municipality in Bergen County. A motion to approve these for consent.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All business? The River Edge Senior Community Center is listed. We have invited Mr. Costa and Representative DMR Architects to be here at the next council meeting, which will be Monday, August 13th. We expect to have them give this presentation and be available to answer questions. Any other old business? Any new business? Some of that. Okay. No new business? Motion to open to public, please.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're open for general public comment on anything you want to speak about. There will be another opportunity for public comment during the regular meeting, which will start immediately after this meeting. Would anybody like to speak? Seeing no one, a motion to close?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to adjourn work session and go right into regular session. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're ready to continue?
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome, everybody. This is the regular meeting of the Mayor and Council, Monday, July 9th, 2018. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by posting on the bulletin board in the Borough Hall, by email to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled to same as provided by law of a schedule including the date and time of this meeting. I'd like to remind all members of the public that we have 3 fire exits in our council chambers, one on each side of the dais and one at the rear, and ask everybody please rise for a moment of silent prayer. And will the administrator please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Madam Clerk.
Barloni?
Here.
Councilwoman Steve? Here. Councilman Kamigo is out with prior notice. Councilwoman Davis? Present. Councilman Gautier?
Here.
Councilman Papaleo is out with prior notice. And Mayor Mignon.
Present. May I please have a motion to approve the minutes of the Mayor and Council special work session meeting and regular meeting of June 25th, 2018?
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
2 abstentions. We have 3 proclamations and awards this evening. Is, Chief here, or who's going to be making the presentations on what? Oh, I see. Oh, Chief. Come right up.
Where we going here?
Let's just go
Right over the, right in front of the dais.
There you go.
Really well.
and we have these handheld mics. Sure.
George, is that on? Is that on? The mic.
What's that?
I want to
Yeah.
that's on. Let's see. No. There you go.
Mayor, members of the council, thank you for allowing me to take time out tonight out of your meeting schedule to make you aware of the actions of some of the members of the volunteer fire department who assisted the Oradell Fire Department in a working house fire on June 12th, and I would like to present those members with the Riverhead Fire Department Life-Saving Award and a unit citation for a ladder company 1. Just to give you a little background on what happened that afternoon, at approximately 6 p.m. Tuesday, June 12th, the Oradell Fire Department was dispatched to a report of a house fire on 240 Kinnicomack Road with people trapped on the 2nd floor. At the same time, the Riverhead Fire Department was operating on Voorhees Avenue for a gas leak. Riverhead Ladder 1, who was under the command of Captain Timothy Carroll, and his crew was Lieutenant Richard Nearhood and firefighter Tyler Nearhood, had just been released from the gas leak on Voorhees Avenue. Monitoring the situation, Captain Carroll, knowing Ladder 1 is assigned to working fires in Oradell, took the initiative to respond to the fire before being dispatched. En route, Ladder 1 was ordered to assist the Oradell Squad 22 and ladder the rear of the building, where it was confirmed that the occupant was trapped on the roof of the 1st floor of the home. Upon arrival, Captain Carroll and firefighter Nearhood teamed up with former Chief Kevin Burns and firefighter Michael, I hope I don't screw this up, Colombini from Oradell Squad 22, and 2 off-duty Jersey City firefighters who just happened to be driving by. The team laddered the rear of the building, and without hesitation or regard for their personal safety, firefighters Colombini, Captain Carroll, and firefighter Nearhood ascended the ladder and under smoke and fire conditions located the victim on the roof, carried the disoriented victim through the ladder, down the ladder, started first aid to address the victim's injuries, and then turned the victim over to EMS where he was transported to the hospital. If it was not for their quick actions and the teamwork of all involved, this fire would have ended in tragedy. Therefore, on behalf of the men and women of the River Ridge Volunteer Fire Department, I am very proud to award the River Ridge Fire Department Life Saving Award to Captain Timothy Carroll and firefighter Tyler Nearhood. Yes, thank you. The citation reads as follows. The River Edge Fire Department Life-Saving Award is awarded to Captain Timothy Carroll and firefighter Tyler Nearhood for actions which, through disregard for their own personal safety, rescued an occupant from the roof of a working house fire at 240 Kinnicamack Road, Oradell, New Jersey, on June 12, 2018. If it was not for their quick action, this fire would have again ended tragically. Now, just a little side note, I had plaques ordered for you guys. Crown trophies happen on Mr. Mayor, I would also like to present the River Edge Fire Department unit citation to the crew of Ladder 1, which again, Lieutenant Neal, if you please come up. The actions of the entire crew, which made the rescue of the occupant possible, started with the teamwork and the planning while responding to the situation, knowing what they were about to encounter. So again, on behalf of the men and women of the fire department, it is my honor to present the River Edge Fire Department unit citation to the crew of Ladder 1, again, Captain Timothy Carroll, Lieutenant Richard Nearhood, and firefighter Tyler Nearhood. And that citation reads, River Edge Ladder 1, Captain Carroll, Lieutenant Nearhood, firefighter Nearhood, in recognition of actions performed resulting with the rescue of a trapped occupant from the roof of working house fire at 240 Kinnicamack Road, Oradell, on June 12. Again, not for the actions taken in this fire, again, we're going to end it tragically. These guys did a very heroic thing, and the three of them, after they brought the guy down, stayed with them until EMS got there, and in true firefighter fashion, said, we're available, what's next? So they went right from rescuing the guy off the roof to going right back to work to looking for more work to do. So it is definitely my honor to have these guys working for me, for sure. Again, on behalf of the
Chief, before you gentlemen sit down, we have Assemblyman Chris Tully and Assemblywoman Lisa Swain who would like to make a presentation also.
Hi, everyone.
I just thought it out.
I'm Assemblywoman Lisa Swain, and this is Assemblyman Chris Tully, and along with Senator Joe Logano, we represent Legislative District 38, and we are so honored to be here tonight on this very special occasion. I want to say thank you to the Mayor and Council for inviting us here. We are thrilled to be able to read a proclamation for this very, very special event that has happened. We want to thank Captain Tim Carroll, the entire River Edge Fire Department, especially Tyler Nearhood, and we want to acknowledge you. You heard about the climbing up the stairs and rescuing, and we're just so honored that we can be here to present this proclamation to you. And and now I'd like to ask Assemblyman Chris Tully to present the proclamation.
It is our honor, Assemblywoman Senator Logano, here this evening. We read the story of the news, we followed it on Facebook, and I'm just continuing awe of everything that our first responders and local fire departments do. When you see danger when others run, you guys are in. It's a true honor to be here tonight, to honor both of you and the entire River Edge Fire Department, everything that you did on that day. So I won't read the whole thing, it's very long, but I will read a portion of it. Whereas the strength and success of the state of New Jersey and the vitality of our community depend in great measure on the selfless organizations and their members, exemplified by Tim Carroll and Tyler Nearhood, who have proven themselves to be models of excellence in duty and public service. Now therefore be it resolved by the Senate and General Assembly in New Jersey, this legislature hereby honoring the River Edge Fire Department, Tim Carroll, Tyler Nearhood, and for bravery and selflessness, and extends them the sincere best wishes. Congratulations.
Just the one here. And gentlemen,
Just
one
go
more.
behind him.
Sit down, please. I'm going to ask our fire liaison, Mary Davis, to join me down here. It's my honor and privilege tonight to also give you certificates of recognition of the heroic job you have done and very well represented yourself in the River. Our certificates of recognition reads: in recognition of your outstanding efforts on June 12, 2018, in which you used your experience and training while a fully indulged house fire in Orville to assist in the rescue of a man from the roof of his burning home. Through your patience and performance, your actions were instrumental in preventing potential tragedy. I've said many times, and we can't say it enough, and that we're very happy to have you here. When you've asked us, certainly wanted to present it tonight. We say all the time, we're so fortunate to know that there's people who get out of leave their homes, leave their loved ones in the dead of night, whatever the winter, so they can protect the rest of us, our property and our lives. So we're always grateful for all you do. And in these special circumstances, it's even better to give you a little bit of special recognition that you deserve. So congratulations to all of you. Appreciate it.
I happen to be driving by.
One more proclamation for the week of August 11th as National Farmers Market Week. Mary, as the council liaison, maybe get us the proclamation. The proclamation that reads as follows: whereas farmers markets are important outlets for fresh farms and table healthy ingredients nationwide and provide agricultural producers with a big part in our food. In 2014, the Borough of River Edge began a farmers market on Pennsylvania Avenue, and whereas farmers markets play a key role in developing local and regional food systems as a source of sustainability, attending food, revitalize communities, and provide opportunities for farmers and consumers to interact. We offer consumers fresh, affordable, convenient, and healthy products produced and sold locally. And whereas it's important to recognize and support the River Edge farmers market, and to advocate further awareness of farmers markets and the important contributions they make to daily life in America and our community. Now therefore it's being resolved that I, the mayor of Borough River Edge, in recognition thereof, to hereby proclaim August 5th to 11th, 2018 as National Farmers Market Week. I encourage the residents of River Edge to become a farmers market patron every Tuesday, and to celebrate the benefits of farmers markets and the local, sustainable, and appeasing farmers sources. We haven't been, we've been so far this is the third year in our reboot, I would say, and it's gotten better every year since. this year we had organized a separate loan market committee, hired a new manager to restore integrity and vitality to the market, and the next is our liaison has been joined with our committee. And we're very happy that it's been continually, slowly growing, and it's one of the most popular things that we do in town. And thank you for that. I have a motion open to the public for comments on any item specifically on tonight's agenda.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's an opportunity to ask any questions about a pending item that we have on tonight's agenda. There'll be another opportunity to address the council at the end of the meeting. Seeing no, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so we can get you on there.
You have to kind of yell a little bit more out, please. I'm not really familiar with understanding
We're not going to get into a detailed discussion this evening. The next meeting, I don't know if you heard earlier, on August 13th, we'll have the architect, and they will give a whole overview, and we can ask questions.
So you won't be discussing that at all?
No.
This is all business we can discuss at the end of the meeting.
You could,
We can discuss it, but we're not having a discussion.
No replies from the dates about our questions.
Sir, it depends what your questions are, and if we have any information to answer. And
Ma'am, right now, this is open to the public for items on the agenda. That's what we're discussing now, items on the agenda.
any more? Yes, Councilman, please.
Casey Connors, 259 Adams Avenue. What was the architect before? I did not hear. We are here talking about an architect.
We have asked our architect and our borough engineer to appear at the next council meeting so they can give a presentation and answer questions to the public regarding the proposed community center.
Proposed what?
Community center. Anybody else? Motion closed. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have several appointments and personnel changes this evening. Can I please have a motion to approve the sick leave of John Lynch, Superintendent of Public Works, effective June 27, 2018?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Just for the public's general information, our Superintendent of Public Works, John Lynch, has had a very serious health crisis, and we expect he may be out for an extended period. And our thoughts and prayers are with his family as he recovers. I just wanted to let the public be aware that our Superintendent of Public Works, John Lynch, has suffered a very serious health crisis, and we're not sure, well, we do expect he's going to be out for a long term at this point. And so our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family as he struggles to recover from this issue. So we're wishing him well and look forward to getting him back as soon as we can. I have a motion to approve the sick leave of Edwin Alter, Land Use Assessor Clerk, from June 27 through July 26, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to approve the salary increase of Patrick Diamond, Police Officer, from an annual salary of $72,850 to Patrolman 14th grade, salary of $81,255, effective July 23, 2018.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion to approve the salary increase of Mark DeYoung, Police Officer, from an annual salary of $131,446.53 to $133,880.72 due to an increase in longevity from 8 to 10%, effective July 15, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And lastly, a motion to approve the salary increase of Michael McGinty, Sergeant in the Police Department, from an annual salary of $141,960.94 to $144,589.85 due to an increase in longevity from 8 to 10%, effective July 15, 2018.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Listed in our agenda are various pieces of correspondence. If anyone is interested for copies, just go to the Borough Clerk. We don't have any monthly reports on file this evening. We have two ordinances on for first reading. Madam Clerk, please read by title proposed ordinance 18-18.
1818, a bond ordinance to authorize the replacement of sidewalks and curb ramps at various locations in, by, and for the Borough of River Edge in the County of Bergen, State of New Jersey, to appropriate the sum of $40,000 to pay the costs thereof, to make a down payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds, to finance such payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds, to finance such payment, to authorize the issuance of bonds, to finance such appropriations, and to provide for the issuance of bond anticipation notes in anticipation of the issuance of such bonds.
In plain English, it's replacement of sidewalks, curbs, and ramps at various locations in the amount of $40,000. We have a motion to adopt on first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Bartoloni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bastides?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
Councilman Gautier?
Yes.
There will be a public hearing on this ordinance at a subsequent meeting. Madam Clerk, please
Ordinance-
read by title ordinance 18-19 by title.
Ordinance 1819 is an ordinance of the Borough of River Edge, County of Bergen, the State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing Chapter 380 of River Edge Borough Code, entitled Tobacco.
This is a proposed ordinance to amend Chapter 380 of the Borough Code, tobacco, to include the definition of e-cigarettes. Is there a motion to adopt this on first reading?
So moved.
Roll call, please.
Councilman Bartoloni?
Yes.
Councilwoman Bastides?
Yes.
Councilwoman Davis?
Yes.
And Councilman Gautier.
Yes.
Yes.
Is it appropriate to make a comment on
Sure.
this for the council's information?
Yes.
And for the public? Just to remind the public and the council that this came to us through the Municipal Alliance Against Alcohol and Substance Abuse, that e-cigarettes were not included as a prohibited offense with use by minors. This will correct that and make e-cigarettes and their devices, inserts, what have you, prohibited use by minors under 21. I also just want to point out that we're including public schools and public school property as a place where this offense would be considered an offense. We have heard, the Municipal Alliance has heard and is recommending this. There's a terrible problem in our public schools with the use of vaping devices, and we want to support our schools in any way in enforcing or deterring the use of these devices by minors. I will also note that the existing violations and penalties of this ordinance are not being amended. There was discussion by the Alliance of putting a monetary violation or penalty upon offense, but we did not change that in this ordinance, so I just wanted to make the council aware if that's something they want to take under advisement, to make a monetary penalty, but right now it's the same violations and penalties that exist in the code today.
That's like a community service.
There are 3 levels of offense, the third being what they call station house adjustment or juvenile petition, where they might have to be. And I would also suggest that we, either through the borough clerk or somehow we engage the borough of Oradell in amending their ordinance if it does not already have this from these amendments, as the high school is in Oradell and the middle school is in River Edge.
We also increased the age from 18 to 21. The ordinance is 18, now the state law changed where you cannot buy from 21. So we made that consistent.
Thank you.
And it's, I don't know if it should have been shocking, but it was shocking to me to see the prevalence of the vaping that goes on in the borough, and we know that it's as low as in the middle school. So obviously we need to have more education, and believe that this extra enforcement may begin to start to discourage some of our younger residents from even starting this, because in my opinion, it's just a path to, or a bad choice that could lead to some more serious consequences down the line. So, thanks to Councilman Steve for leading this effort.
Thank you for your time.
And we will have a hearing, a public hearing on this at another council meeting. Resolutions. We have resolutions numbered 18-234 to 18-244, 18-246 through 18-250 proposed for consent. Would any member of council like to pull for separate consideration or vote any of those resolutions? If not, I would entertain offer a motion to adopt them by consent.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Oh,
opposed?
wait. Never mind. Looking at the wrong thing. Never mind.
Any opposed?
No.
Will Councilman Bartoloni, our Finance Chairman, please read and move Resolution 18-251, payment of the bills.
Thank you, Mayor. Whereas vouchers for the payment of goods and services rendered to the Borough of River Edge have been received, and whereas each bill has been checked by the receiving department, approved by the Chief Financial Officer and Borough Clerk, and reviewed by the 3 members of the Finance Committee, now therefore be it resolved that bills as listed now be confirmed for payment from the appropriate funds as follows. Current account, $407,437.43. Capital account, $29,004. Recreation account, $8,298.25. Animal welfare account, $4.80. Self-insurance account, $5,053.38. Trust other account, $44,729.90. Open space account, $2,237.18. Trust other developers account, $2,102.50. So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're at our second opportunity to open to the public. A motion, please. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're open to the public. Any comments, questions?
Hold up, please.
Henry Semler, 435 Bogart Road, River Edge. I was up here 2 weeks ago, and since then, there's been 3 big events in town that have gotten me out there to speak to many, many citizens. And they're astonished at the Civic Center, or community room, whatever you would like to call it. And what I found is they're overwhelmingly against it. I'm glad you're going to set up a meeting in 2 or 3 weeks, whatever. I have one other question. The score, you've said they were going to use it and everything. There's a rental agreement of $18,000 a year. Does anybody subsidize it, or does the town get any funds from the federal, state, or local government to subsidize that figure?
No.
Nobody gets subsidized.
We had in the past gotten about $1,800 CDBG money for programming, but not towards the rent.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Yes, Tom. Oh.
Right. But a little bit about it. Don, you gotta come up here because it's gotta be recorded.
Donna Sanders, president of the River Edge Volunteer Ambulance Service. And I'm just curious, can you just tell us a little bit more about it? Because I think the public is not aware of it. I only know a little piece of it. Can you explain it in a little more detail?
I don't want to get into too many details because we will have the architect and the engineer next time. And what we tend to find is when we have a discussion open like this and we don't have all the experts or the materials present, sometimes information may be incomplete or missing, and then either someone believes that we're not telling you the truth or we leave something out. So basically, this started in 2008, 2009. None of us were up on the base at that point. Council at the time decided to purchase the American Legion property. The intent was to use it for a senior center. So it's been intended to have a community senior center since 2008 and 9.
Right.
We all know, or maybe we don't all know, but that building is in disrepair. It was in very much disrepair the day we bought it. The previous councils had had that building assessed. It was not suitable for public occupancy. At the time, they estimated just to bring it up to code was about $1 million. At that time, when Mayor Mascarpolo got into office, he formed a subcommittee to start exploring options on how to proceed with that. I believe the first subcommittee was Mayor Mascarpolo, Councilman Alfreda, and I voted Councilman Bartoloni. I got put on the committee when Councilman Bartoloni was not on council, and with the passing of Councilman Alfreda, Councilman Papaleo has taken his spot. So this has been going on for a number of years, and there's been multiple discussions. There's been articles in the record, certainly articles in the town news. It's been subject of budget hearings. It's been discussed with every significant borough stakeholder group, meaning Recreation Commission, the Library Board, Shade Tree Commission, Star Commission.
And you
for-
know,
Friends
you
of the
know the
Library.
ambulance corps
Yes,
concern, because we've
yes.
had discussions on it, you know, we're a little concerned about the parking.
Yes, and we know that and I think we try to lay your fear that whatever dedicated spaces you have, we will make sure you have the same dedicated spaces.
Will people be notified within 200 feet of the building before anything gets done? I mean,
No,
I
that
think
would
that's
not,
the
that would not
law,
be,
isn't it?
no, that's not required in this case, but it's not broad enough. I mean, we can certainly send notices to people 200 feet, but that's about maybe 40 or 50 houses.
Right.
So, we would
Right,
have
but
to
I
do more
thought
widespread.
in order to do any kind of work, you would have to notify
No,
the public.
that's if it's a regular application before a zoning board. When a borough does a project, the board has a hearing, what they call a capital review meeting.
Okay.
It's essentially a public hearing, and the board can make recommendations. The borough is not obligated to accept them, but in most cases they would. I'm sure they probably would. It would be put on as if it were a regular application. Experts would give their testimony, and the public would be able to ask questions directly of each professional, and the board will give their input.
So on the 13th, we'll have more.
I haven't heard back.
answers.
The architect is on vacation this week, so I don't know if he can confirm, but we will let.
Okay, thank you
the
very
public.
much. I appreciate it. I'll be back on the 13th.
Yes, Mr. Queen.
Hi, my name is Cindy Bequeath. I'm at 745 7th Avenue. I have a question. We had something in the mail today, dropped off by a paving company. If they're going to be paving, yay. 7th Avenue is one of the streets in the town. Wales, I think, is another one, and a few others down our way. And then also another area of River Edge. It said that on or about Thursday and on or about Monday, they will be milling and then repaving the road, and we can't put our cars on the street. And I understand that. The dates that are in question are also the dates that the garbage pickup comes to our area. So on both Thursday and Monday are the two garbage pickup dates. So, and it's also Tuesday's a recycling day. So if we can't have any trucks going, if the streets are closed from 8 a.m. to 5, I called the DPW this morning and they said just hold on to your things for another week. And they said that's an option. They said it's an
The reason
option.
they say on or about it is for a couple of reasons. One is that we're part of a cooperative, and the contractor may not necessarily work in sequential order. And if he has another town where he hasn't had to do as much work that day, they may mobilize and come to River Edge and start milling. But we can reach out to Mr. Costa tomorrow, who will call them and let them know the scheduling issues. And if it can be moved, we'll certainly move it. If there's other accommodations, we'll certainly have to let you know. But I think it's probably flexible enough that we could adjust the schedule.
I'm not asking anybody to move anything.
Well, no, it's
Well,
a flexible schedule anyway. We could address everything in one time.
What I'm requesting is perhaps if they maybe could somehow with the residents that they could bring their things to either Continental if they wanted to, or to Webb if those avenues will not be worked on. So, I mean, is that anything that you normally do? as a council when there's paving involved? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
Or that
recall
the
this,
town
I
does.
don't
I shouldn't
recall
say the
this,
council.
I don't recall the specific, I'm sure it has happened,
Okay.
but I'm not aware of it ever being brought to our attention as an issue. But again, there should be enough flexibility. I appreciate that you and your neighbors be willing to do that, but we shouldn't have to unnecessarily inconvenience you if we can modify the schedule.
Okay. The other thing is I wanted to say thank you to the center in River Edge, the Cultural Center, for putting on a terrific car show. I don't know if it's been mentioned, I missed the beginning of the meeting, but there was I heard from at least a half a dozen of the people that came that were there for the first time that it was a terrific show, one of the better ones that they've ever done in the area. So I wanted to say thank you, and even the sound, I didn't hear many complaints about the sound being so loud. So it worked out really well, so thank you again for putting all that on. And the third thing I wanted to ask about is, my mother and myself and my sister, as seniors, have all joined the Hillsdale Swim Club that has a senior rate. I understand that the Hillsdale pool is somewhat subsidized by the city, by the town of Hillsdale, or the borough, whatever it's called. I've approached already the River Edge Swim Club manager and board, and they have said that they would not do any kind of special senior pricing. And I don't know if the town has ever considered any kind of a help so that maybe the citizens of our own town that may not want to spend $600 to join as an individual could maybe get some kind of a senior rate. So if we could maybe put that in for consideration, either talk to them about it or somehow help out, it would be appreciated.
Thank you.
Good evening. Kyle Whitty, resident 187 Tenney Ave. I have a couple of questions and comments concerning the community center, senior center. I do understand that we're going to have another meeting with the architect and engineer, but some of the questions, I think you guys will be better to answer. I've only been a resident of town for about 7 years. I will phrase this way. I am optimistic about the community center and the senior center. I truly believe that I live in the best area of town. I walked here tonight. I walk my kids to school. I walk my kids to the park. Sorry. I am optimistic. I want you to understand that. But my first question is, what facilities do we currently lack that this community center, senior center needs to be built? I know SCORE has been addressed, but from my knowledge, it's not a large group. I've been told it's between 20 and 25. Am I accurate with that or no?
I couldn't say. I know they have
Okay.
more registered members. I don't know whether they get everybody at any given week.
Okay.
But also part of the concerns that have been expressed to us by the seniors is that they want to go to a facility that's meant to be there, well, not theirs, but the boroughs.
Understood.
There's been some issues, or they've had perceived issues with being leasees, and sometimes there's disruption to when they can have their meetings or meet because of the conflict with the Jewish holidays. And right now, they're limited to 2 days a week, and it seemed very often the last few years, a lot of the holidays have fallen on Mondays and Tuesdays, and they've just been canceled, so they haven't been able to, meet regularly like they had hoped to. So, long story short, that it's something that many seniors have expressed interest in, and it would be, we'd be optimistic that if we had a facility with full programming in place, the other part we lack right now, you may encourage more people, seniors, to get involved.
Additionally, I know in the plans at the meeting 2 weeks ago, they had a room or an area dedicated to the teen center. Okay. So obviously that would be directed for an after-school time period between 3 and 5 or whatever. I guess there's a couple different issues and concerns with that. Okay, because that means that we're going to have a dedicated staff there. at some point. That's something that needs to be brought in.
The recreation director's office will be there.
But I'm sure, and I haven't talked to the recreation director, that is not, the recreation director has their job as the recreation director, not to monitor teams that are there.
That's incorrect. When we modified our ordinance with the Recreation Commission, we created we have a Recreation Commission, we also have a Board of Cultural Affairs. The intent is that the Recreation Department, that, as we have now, will be the responsible entity for running and organizing and programming the community center. The new director we hired, one of the things that attracted her to our job, and also which attracted us to her, was that she has experience in typical recreation activities, typical sports and those kinds of programs. She also has a lot of experience with special events, and she's also programmed senior centers and community centers, so she knows how to get this kind of programming up and running and what's the best way to implement it. The team room was something that she had suggested at one time, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a dedicated room at this point. She's going to work up programming, and we can decide how the spaces get used. Her experience was that if you have something, you will have teams interested and participate and attend.
Okay.
And we have a lot of parents who know where for kids to go. We've heard that a lot of times. So that's the intent behind it.
Okay. And then lastly, I am requesting that a traffic study is conducted, okay? Because as a resident in that area, it sounds like a lot of the activity and that'll be seen in that area is going to be post-school. And for any of the residents that live in my area, they will tell you that there's a tremendous amount of traffic during that time period. And again, I am optimistic, and we deal with different traffic issues throughout the year. The farmers market, which my family enjoys and participate in, they've done a tremendous job, sincerely have, and we enjoy that very much. The car show on Sunday, again, was a tremendous event, but it creates a lot of issues. So my concern is from a safety aspect for my children and my neighbors and people in that area. And I want you to understand that I'm very concerned with having an entrance and exit on Elm. I am a police officer, so I understand that putting an entrance and exit on Continental may be incredibly difficult also. But a traffic study, I do believe, is necessary, and it has to be during the school year to really understand what we're adding. Because adding, parking for another 90 spaces is going to, I want it to be successful, I do. But I want to make sure that we keep the integrity of our community in that area. So
the borough engineer can speak to some of that next time he's here. One of the reasons we have problems now is because we don't have sufficient parking. The library itself has requested many times to expand the parking just for the library. So if and when this building does go forward, it has to have adequate parking. We don't want exactly what you're talking about. We don't want it overflowing in front of the neighborhood houses like happens every other time. Again, this has been discussed with the professionals. They'll bring it up. I'll just touch on it. Continental is not preferable. It has 15,000 cars a day or something like that. You would have to not allow any parallel parking. You have sufficient sight distance. I'm not sure if it meets the criteria based on where the distance from the intersection is. And generally, you want to have your entrances and exits along the same axis for circulation purposes. The other issue we've had, that's been a major issue at that area for a long time, are people making mid-block crossings from the park to that parking lot right now. And if we basically don't have access over there, and plan, or one of the considerations was to do some kind of buffering on that side to discourage kids from starting to cross on their bicycles, like we've seen a lot, and that's been a major concern for a long time.
It's not just kids. And
Well, I know, it's a lot of people, but it's an issue.
I do recognize it's an issue, and you're going to have the same issue it's going to continue because it crosses over on my street directly to the library. I just want a tremendous amount of thought put into this. Again, I am optimistic. I already truly believe I live in the best area of town, and I just want to make sure the integrity remains, that I am the best part of town.
Yes.
Not just for me, but for my neighbors. I just wanted my comments noted.
Sure.
And, just thank you for what you're doing. Just please make sure that we keep this borough the best, because it is. Okay?
Sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else?
Kenny Lehman, 190 Tenny Avenue. Good evening. Thank you guys for your service. Just curious, the $4,000 that was appropriated in the earlier work session to the architect, what is that to cover?
It's to finish out this concept phase, so if we have to make some more changes based on public input, we have the money in that budget for him to do so.
So that's like an allocated amount just in case it needs to be used?
Yeah, we always get billed on a time and material basis.
Mm-hmm. And the $30,000 to the borough engineer that was removed off the agenda, was there a particular reason for that?
It will be considered once we have our public meeting, because it may require him to modify his scope of services as well.
So was that to cover a change in scope?
No, he was going to be retained to start preliminary design on the site work part of the project.
But was there a reason why that was just canceled for tonight, or?
Because the council does not believe that they want to approve a contract for work that we don't know is going to go forward, and if so, what the scope's going to be. Mr. Costa can give us a revised proposal if and when we ask him for it.
Okay, my other question is with regards to how we're funding this project. When I look through, and there's rather a lot of paperwork to go through when you're looking at the minutes. I did come across the 2018 appropriations, of which I believe there was about $696,000 appropriated to the community center in 2018. If I stand corrected, let me know.
Authorized, not expended at this point.
Of which $34,000 of that amount was, I guess, through the original ordinance cleaning up, or was that, it was $34,000 that was taken out of the, I forget what they called it. So $34,830 out of the capital improvement fund. Is that money that was, the money that was found when you had mentioned, Councilman Bartoloni, about the ordinances? Or is that?
The capital improvement fund is, every time we have a bond, we're obligated to have 5% hard put into the budget. So when you put all those together, the bonding 5% go into the capital improvement fund, and also generally smaller items that may be capital, but say typically something that's maybe $10,000 or less, but you wouldn't want to necessarily bond that over 20 years. We actually take the $10,000 from the capital budget and include it directly in the budget, and it goes in that fund.
So on this one particular, this is project 18-2-30, capital budget of the Borough of River Edge, project scheduled for 2018. The line item for the community center is $696,600. The capital improvement fund, which I guess is the down payment in this case, is $34,830, of which part of a larger general bond, $661,770 was financed through the apprehension, through the getting that bond in place. Is that correct?
The authorization has made, there's been no bond issued at this point.
So
The
then that,
34,000, you're correct, that's 5% from the 600.
right, but I think it was a larger bond, it was like in the
Well,
2 million and change
That
range.
was all whatever capital.
Right,
it was
but,
a separate
but of
fund.
which 661,000 is being allocated to the community center, right?
Yes.
So that means that we have the down payment portion of the community center on this one line item is 0.5% of that 696,000. So my question is just whether or not we would expect that trend to fund the community center costs, the total community center costs, to be, financing, basically debt financing the full, almost 99% of this project.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
If you have $34,000 that you put towards this project, right? That was out of this
That's just this
capital.
year.
No, I know.
The
I
money we
understand.
put in this year.
But I'm just saying that for this year alone, okay, if you allocated $696,000 for the community center,
This year.
okay, of which $661,770 is being part of the larger bond
Yes.
that we're financing over the course of 15 years. I'm just asking, is it expected that as we move into 2019, that the total funding for this project is going to be majority financed through bonds?
Well, I'll answer that question. Anytime you have a capital improvement in town, whether it's your streets, a fire truck, SUVs for the police department, you don't pay cash for that up front. All of those are financed over a period of time. So this project wouldn't be any different than any other material purchase that the town makes.
So that would be a yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I would, and this is where I know a lot of people said they didn't know about this. The town is, hold on, just.
Fine, go ahead.
But the town has been putting money aside from this since 2013. This is not the beginning of it. What you're looking at is the end of it.
Councilman Bartoloni, I'm not arguing with you.
Well, you were asking it going forward, and I'm telling you, this is the end. We've been putting this aside very strategically over a long period of time so that there wouldn't be an impact to the citizens. In fact, this year, like we said, there was no municipal tax increase on the municipal side.
But that doesn't mean it doesn't mean that's not part of the overall tax burden.
The budget has been already approved.
And
it was a zero this year. So when you say going forward, there is no going forward. It's already done.
Councilman, I'm just asking educated questions.
No, I'm trying to answer your question.
I just feel like you're getting annoyed at my questions.
I'm trying to answer it.
That's okay. So, all right. I will echo the sentiment of Kyle Whitty. I live across the street from him, okay? I believe that, the intentions here of the mayor and council are fully, at what is best for the community, okay? Yes, it's been announced in papers. Yes, it's been, in the town news or on the Bergen Record or discussed here, and yes, people have been talking about it for years, okay? But, none of all of us are very, privy to page whatever in the town news where it was announced. Not all of us see it in the Bergen Record, okay? And it's just that, and I think it's quite obvious, based on the attention that this is getting now, is that maybe we just weren't all cognizant of how this was being relayed out to the community. So I think it makes sense that questions would come up that basically the execution of the project, although I believe that the intention is all well and good, I think we just want to make sure that the execution of the project is done in full transparency and is done in the best interest of everyone.
That's a fair question, and we're trying to accommodate that. And I appreciate your comments, because usually there's some either underhanded or nefarious claims for why we do certain things. But like if this is an ongoing project, we certainly all understand up here that not everybody can come to these meetings. We know that sometimes the information is not put out there. And with the purchase of the town news by Gannett Group or whoever it is, there's been no River Edge news in the town news for, I can't tell you how many months.
2-3 years.
So the closest and most direct and detailed source we used to have a dedicated reporter who would come to every meeting and always write 2 or 3 articles, and that was a great way to get information out. I said, going back to the previous mayor and administration, there were public surveys released. Now again, how they were all distributed, I couldn't tell you, I don't recall at the time. They're available through the library and other places. They're available online. At that time, the former mayor met with these potential stakeholder groups. They talked about needs. They talked about what kind of programming space they would need. All that was done 6, 7, 8 years ago. We're limited, obviously, by a couple of constraints. One is budget, of course. That's always first and foremost. We want to make sure that we spend money so we get value for our dollar. And I think this council up here, that's what we've always striven to do. The other thing we have, we're constrained by, is a balance between the size of a building and its parking requirements. So, you have too big of a building, you need more parking, not enough space to do it, you got to shrink the building. So and you get to a point where, whether it's told to us by the professionals or whatever, there's a point where if you shrink it too small, it becomes basically not something that's going to be well used, and therefore you're spending money and it's not going to be a well utilized building. You've seen this in other towns. Towns that have spent $6-10 million on these community centers, and nobody goes to them. Obviously, that's something we never want to happen here. It's modest enough where we think it'll get fairly good use, and I think we've established, at least through the groups and the people we've spoken to, that it meets the needs that these people have asked, including the schools. The other issue, again, it's not a reason why we would do it, but the school has been pressuring us for years to move polling out of school places. We have nowhere to move out of Roosevelt School. This would be a polling location potentially. So that's a different aspect of using the building. And the third constraint we have over there is we are restricted in the footprint we can use, because most of that land has been encumbered with a conservation easement when we accepted Green Acres money to buy that strip of land next to Cherry Hill School. So basically, if you can imagine where the west wall of the existing American Legion is, if you sort of project that towards the library, anything there to the east, that's the only buildable area we're permitted to consider based on those restrictions. So it's site restrictions, budget restrictions, and there's other site restrictions. And we're trying to balance all those to get a project that's going to be very beneficial for the community, mindful of mitigating whatever impact, whether the construction will be impact. I'm not going to sit up here and say that it would be an impact, but right now we have a very busy library, not enough parking for the library. The other gentleman talked about the farmers market and other events where we have spillover traffic into the side streets. So there's, like every other thing, pros and cons. We weighed them. Council's consent, not consensus, was unanimous that we proceed with this project in concept, and we're at the point where we have these concept plans developed, and that's where we're on the process, and we will entertain the questions while the professionals are here. They can give you their answer. If there's something policy-oriented that we can answer, we'll answer that too.
Are there actual project details, like detailed requirements that were gathered with regards to designing this community center in terms of size and need?
There is a document. I don't know whether it was ever finalized. I'll certainly find a copy for you. It was put together by Foley Councilman, I forget, who was an architect by trade, and he had put together, I forgot what he had called it, but basically it outlines the purpose, what the uses would be. I don't know if all the fill in the blanks were filled in, because they were just still talking about size. One of the things that delayed this for a number of years was we could not come to a consensus even on the committee of the order of magnitude this building should be. The first proposals were 9,000 or 10,000 square feet. Physically impossible. Well, the mayor wanted 2 stories, an elevator. That would not have been financially practical. And it took a long time before we're all able to say, look at all these constraints and look what's going to be realistic and start from there. So that took several years to get to that point. And then since we had that, that's when we later on engaged a new architect to again, come up with some of these concepts. Mr. Costa did some of the conceptual site planning for us. I said that's what we went today.
Okay. Two questions. When I look at the user-friendly version of the outstanding debt for our town, and again, I'll break this down. I know that we're in around the $31 million range, which includes both local school debt, regional school debt, and the municipal debt.
Yeah, it might be higher.
I think the municipal debt is in around $11 million. Okay, if I'm reading this correctly, I think tax revenues are expected to be right around the $12 million range.
Is that right?
So, with that kind of municipal debt to income ratio or revenue ratio, is financing what could potentially go up to, well, let's say it's a $2.6 million job right now, could potentially go higher. Could potentially, well, let's go with $2.6 million. Does it make sense to finance a $2.6 million job right now when you have that? So I'm just to finish the question.
No.
When you have that sizable debt.
The debt is rolling in a sense. We have old bonds which get paid off every year, and then you get new bonds as it comes necessary. We don't bond every year. We'll have a bond sale how many times? Once every 3 or 4 years now?
3 years, 7 years.
What's the average rate?
Level of debt
What's the average rate again? What's the average rate we spend?
The interest rate?
Level,
Yeah, in recent years it was very low, but about 2% at the high. But if I can just...
I would say our debt service as a portion of the budget has been pretty consistent. It's usually between 9 and 11%. It's been that historically. If we had a copy, or Alan could provide copies of the debt schedule going forward, next year we actually see a slight decrease in overall debt as other stuff comes off. Obviously, if we add more, we would have to add. One of the things we've done, or at least I tried to implement when I became finance chair in 2013, we have a debt policy we put in place. We're one of the few states, one of the few towns that actually has a written debt policy based on total valuation and a percentage of the budget. So we put that constraint on ourselves. And
that includes...
That would include...
Is that just municipal, or does that include school debt as well?
We don't finance the schools, so we don't... From a state viewpoint, they always tend to lump everything together. And when we say, with the tax and river, they put school budget, county budget, and borough budget all in one lump sum. And, as far as residents are concerned, I agree. Taxes are taxes are taxes. So if my taxes went up X percent, most people don't look to see where each one fell in terms of the increase. It's I never try to make this sound like an excuse, but we're 25% of your overall tax bill. But as that 25%, as you look over the last 8 years, I think you will see that we've tried very, very hard to keep our financial house in order. We were, and I'm not exaggerating, on the verge of bankruptcy when I came into office in 2011. Our surplus was almost down to zero. The year before I got into office, we had $375 tax increase. Previous council raised taxes 15% that year. We were in bad shape. So we put a lot of fiscal control in place. We were very conservative with our budgeting. We're very cognizant of capital. We try to keep it even from year to year to year. And we have department heads rotating a new vehicle, all different kinds of ways to make sure that we spread the capital burden evenly over the ensuing years, so we never get hit with a lot of major things at one time. As far as the overall debt service, since we've been here, we've been upgraded by both rating agencies. We are AA on...
You're AA+, and I did read in November minutes that you'd be considered to go up if you actually had a forward-thinking budgeting plan. Is that in process?
Well, it depends on...
They want something forecasted like 3 to 5 years out.
Alan would be better to answer that question, but I know, I think the major benefit obviously from that is that we're for
You get a more
lower rates,
favorable rate.
or lower rates.
Yeah.
And Alan, you have probably a better handle on the rates, but I think they're all like 2.5 or roundabout.
All right, one quick one. Is mid-August meeting the best that we could do here, considering that is prime time for vacation seasoning?
We're trying to move this along too. We'll see if there's a reason to, once you get into September, we're gonna hear, school's starting and people can't come to school.
Fair enough.
So we'll try, if there's need for follow-up, we'll try to, do the best I can to stay the follow-ups.
Well, thank you for answering my questions, and thank you for the information.
Thank you. Yes?
Quick question. Has the cultural center expansion been considered in this?
The cultural center, is not included in this.
They can't stand on the building?
That building would not be, a suitable starting point for a community center. Not much better than what we had at the American Legion. At least now, the cultural center building is habitable, they can use it. But again, if you've been in there, it's not open, it's got stairs, it would require a lot more cost up front to retrofit it to bring it to code. At the end of the day, whatever size building we put, we need the same number of parking spaces. So that's the way, that's the balance it's got to be. Because our ordinance, has parking standards for all types of buildings, including this. And again, they tend to be conservative when they give you these code requirements, but you want to make sure that you're conservative enough so that in the 95 percentile, you always have sufficient parking. There may be a time where the building's at capacity and you may have spillover traffic. You try to avoid that based on the parking standards. Done, sir.
Good evening. On behalf of the Cultural Center and the Car Show Committee, we want to thank the support that we received from the borough and several arms of the borough, and in particular with DPW. Councilwoman Davis and the mayor were there at the car show yesterday. The car show financially was the most successful car show that we had ever, and it will result in programs for the benefit of the community that will going forward in the next year in 2019. So again, we thank you for all the support. The car show doesn't happen the week before, doesn't happen the month before. It actually starts next week for 2019 with a lessons learned session of what we could do better, and we read all the comments that we receive, we digest them, and then we start to address them. And in a previous meeting, we had talked about a lessons learned to go over with the borough police department to review the approach so that we can have a better show next year. And we trust that that will do. In preparation for that, we would be having our lessons learned session internally so that we could sit and go forward with that. We thank the support that we got from the community, and we were very happy all around. It was a very enjoyable afternoon.
And like I said yesterday, we thank you, and we do recognize the amount of time and effort that goes into something like that. We deal with it all year long with you sometimes. Sometimes good, sometimes not so good. But like I said yesterday also, it's an event that I know town people look forward to, and it's something that is a very positive reflection on the borough. There are many of, I've said this before, there are many of the car owners, they always tell me this is the best show. I'm not no details about car shows, but they always tell me it's one of the better shows. And sadly, some of them say, we have fair judging, which says something also. So I think it's a good event. We always try to support it, understanding that we have to also take into account the needs of the neighborhood and the street. there's always issues of public safety, which I know sometimes people may think are a little too conservative, but that's their job, is to make sure that they keep the residents and whoever else is there safe. So everybody has their own perspective, everybody tries to do their best to make sure that all these items are addressed adequately. So, and like you said, it's a challenge sometimes, but it's always a very good event, and I give appreciation to you and the Cultural Center for the effort you put into doing it.
Thank you. I have a letter, and we
How you doing? 25 Tunney Avenue, Ray Searles. I remember when my wife and I moved here 9 years ago. We were newlyweds, looking mostly in the Dumont, New Milford area, and we're thrilled when we found a home in River Edge. That it was a stretch for us, but we were pumped. And in our heads, it was like, okay, this is a place that we can stay. People we were buying from were buying in town. The people they were buying from were buying in town. It just was a great feel. I had two concerns when I bought the house. There was a detached garage that was in extreme disrepair, and it had 3 sub pumps that were just going off all day long. And so I tried to address the sub pumps first, and so I called into town. The next day, Mr. Costa was pulled over with his hazards at my house, checking out my property and giving me recommendations for how to deal with that. And I remember thinking, wow, like, what a town. The guy pulled right up and just was on my property. Like he actually didn't knock on the door. Like he was just walking around. I was like, who's the guy on my door? And it just was a great feel. And fast forward a couple of years, and my wife and I were fortunate enough to have 3 children. And over the last 3 years, we have spent $100,000 on daycare. And why am I telling you this? Because just like in patient making, this is part of the deal. I'm your average River Edge homeowner right now, And I've been lucky enough. My oldest is now in kindergarten, so I got that little tiny bit of relief. And so what are we looking to do with the cash? We joined the swim club for the first time in 9 years, and we're looking to fix that dilapidated garage that I've been looking at for 9 years that I won't even let my children in because it's ready to fall down. And so I just wanted to go on record today because your current zoning officer is an extremely negative human being who is condescending and is not someone who pushes forward the image that we want of River Edge. I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that my paperwork upon initial submission was adequate to meet the needs. I get that. There's things that we have to do. There's also just modes of communication and just a way of going about doing business. And I just have wanted to express my displeasure, with what has taken place since I submitted my application over 2 months ago.
What did you submit an application?
Just in terms of the zoning, because it is close, I have to apply for zoning because it is close to my shared backyard with the Yeshiva school. I am that corner lot right there.
You have an existing garage.
Correct. So if I knock it down,
I'm trying to understand.
So if I knock it down and try to replace it, now that was built in the 1920s. So now is it far enough away from? So now we get into the zoning conversation. So fair enough. But just the tone, the negativity, the complete opposite of what my experience has been in this town in terms of people who are trying to help families. It just has not been the experience that I've had. Again, I'm not claiming that what I have submitted is up to snuff in any way, but I just wanted to, rather than an email, I just wanted to come on record.
I appreciate that. I've been trying to work with the building department on a number of levels, and my professional background, I'm in that kind of world. So I know what's required and what's not, and whatever. They're the same way, but they have try to impress upon them that the average resident doesn't know that. They don't know what the zoning tables are. They don't know what they mean by certain things. A lot of times they're dealing with a contractor who will tell them whatever they want to hear, which they'll then tell their client, you know, it's the town's vice versa. It's a complicated and messy process sometimes. And, you know, I said, we're not trying to, we've been in the process of revamping our forms, our checklists. I've actually drafted some guidance which I'm trying to put together. So there's zoning permit, that's what we need to do. The planning board thing, that's what we need to do. Regular building permit, the website will, when we have an updated website, it will be more clear as to things that you do need a building permit for versus what you do not need a building permit for. Hopefully we'll actually be able to get the forms online also at one point. But I know I'm going on with this, but it's very important to me that the interaction that you have with our employees should always be professional, courteous, and helpful. But even if you do have an incomplete application, in your case, I can't imagine what you need more than a survey.
And that was the thing too. I did submit an updated survey, and then the second time he contacted me, he didn't have the file in front of him, so he was saying things to me that suggested he didn't even remember that he had spoken to me once before. So yeah, I just wanted to put a face. You know, it's one thing for me to just send an email or call. I just wanted to kind of put a face to things. And also, again, like you expressed, where you said this is kind of when I vented to friends and family, you know, their response is kind of like, yeah, that's what it's like with these zoning guys. And, you know, I just felt like, yeah, but you know what, I live in River Edge. And that's the way that I wanted to feel about it. That like, okay, maybe you can communicate that in your town, but I live in River Edge, and I just want more.
That whole process to me needs to be tightened up. I don't know, I'm not aware of any statutory requirements in terms of review periods and things like that for zoning. The building department and applications of the UCC, they have 20 business days to review a permit. But they can stop the clock anytime they need to if something's incomplete. But most public don't understand that. 20 days is a full month. Think about it in terms of work days. So that's a challenge also. But if we had some better, clearer guidance, and I think that would go a long way. So at least residents will be able to read in simplified form what they have to do. And obviously, if we need to further impress upon our employees of how they should be interacting with our residents, we'll do so.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Connors.
Casey Connors, Adams Avenue. I have a question. You were talking before about the senior center.
Yes.
How many members are in SCORE total? Do you have any idea?
I don't know. I've heard, I think the gentleman's correct. I think there's maybe 20 at the time, but they have 60 or so. 20. But they have 60.
When I've been there, it's been larger than
No, I
that.
said there's times where it depends if
you go,
flows like everything else.
and if you go on Monday versus Tuesday.
Yes.
Monday's always, there's more people.
Excuse me, I was asking the total amount.
I don't.
So you can break it down, the cost of the building per person. You're going to be spending approximately $1 million with all the little add-ons, because you know there's always cost overruns. And with that, if you have 20 members, that's kind of out of whack.
I would say today.
That'd be the cap.
No, the building's not just for SCORE.
Exactly.
That's oh, well, I mean, we were talking about teenagers, and if you've ever been to the library around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I could tell you it's not a place where you're going to get a lot of work done. I work from home. Sometimes I like to go to the library and work. 3 o'clock, I got to be out of there because, you know, so for teenagers, there's a huge need for meeting places. When I met with all the various organizations in town, all I kept hearing was, we need meeting space, we need meeting space, we need meeting space. There's not enough. And if you see, and I don't have the list with me, but if you see the names of the organizations that use the library meeting space, it's just a tremendous amount. Like, I didn't even realize there were that many organizations. So there's a need for that as well. And, you know, there's the summer program, the rec camp. You know, I had a resident, you know, I should stop reading the Facebook page, but say, you don't need it for rec camp, but they've already had it rained out twice. And there was one week where it was oppressively hot, the summer rec camp. I mean, it was oppressively hot. It was 100 degrees out almost, with the heat index. And it would have been nice if those kids could have a place to go. One, so rec camp doesn't have to get canceled, and two, if it's really hot out. I've heard residents say, hey, wouldn't it be great if the rec program could be extended? Well, if we have a facility for them to go to as well, that's an option. It used to be that summer camp went to 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and that would be a huge bonus to working families. So there's a lot of different things. SCORE is just one element of the overall plan. There's a lot of other groups that really, I think, could benefit from it. So SCORE is, no, we wouldn't spend that kind of money for 20 people. That would be...
The number useful, the number that useful.
Yeah, but like I said, that's a very small part of the overall. What's that?
As a place to go for like teenagers. 25, 30 years ago, when Food Town pulled out, they wanted to put something in there. But I believe they did, and nobody showed up.
Well, if you go to the library at 3 o'clock, I can promise you that there are a lot of middle schoolers and teenagers in that facility at that time. So,
Councilor, to your point, the way libraries are being used is evolving also, as you're probably well aware. They've actually come to us, they want to put another meeting room in themselves.
Multi-purpose room.
So there's certainly a need for it, and there's been requests for it. And like I said, we have all the commissions who have expressed that they would have programs or things that they would have their meetings. The Cultural Center was certainly invited to participate, but for whatever reason, they're going to maintain the facility they have now. There's some groups in town, I've been involved with the Boy Scouts and the Cub Scouts, where they pay rent to local churches or something to take space. We'd be able to accommodate groups like that. You'd have, all other kind of, open all other kind of groups. We've talked to a lot of youth programs. They can have indoor drill or indoor lessons. We wouldn't actually have sports in there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of, there's certain target audiences that are really underserved in town right now. Teenagers are one of those groups that, if you've met our rec director, she's fantastic. And we look forward to working with her to program, because we're great to 8th grade. And then after that, it kind of drops off a little bit in terms of the program we offer. We have SCORE, but as we know, that doesn't necessarily serve the needs of, our 65 to, let's say, 80-year-old members in town. But there's groups that are being underserved, and I think this building really will help to allow us to better serve large segments of the population. And I'll save some of my other comments for council comments, but it's just not SCORE. It's just not SCORE.
My last question on this is, when Mr. Costa was here and he had the thing on the screen, you were talking about that they want a place to do ballroom dancing.
Well, I was talking about that. They actually...
They wanted a second kitchen, not a prep kitchen?
We have a prep kitchen.
Yeah, it's not a second kitchen.
Not a cooking kitchen.
They wanted a full kitchen.
No.
That's what you said.
Well, they do.
Please go back and...
They do.
They want a full kitchen.
I'm on the committee, and what we told the architect to do. It's not a...
You would have said it.
Sorry?
You were the one that said it.
No, I said it.
I wasn't here at the last meeting.
I said it. SCORE asked for...
Meeting with the, with Costa?
The mayor wasn't here, Casey. It was me. SCORE wants a full kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did say it.
Why?
They said because they want to be able to, their words, make their hot dogs and beans.
But it's a warm, it's not going to be, it's not going to have stoves,
I'm just
it's
telling
not
you
going
what
to have
they said.
ovens, it's not going to have vents.
The town paid for the lease down at the temple.
Last couple of years, it was reduced from 22 to 18,000.
For the year?
Yes, for 2 days, partial days a week.
They're making a good deal for you, huh?
Well, they have to have the building open, and they've accounted for their cost. It is what it is at that point. This has been going on for a long, long time before any of us were here.
That's the problem. everybody else gets, gets pushed to them. They're not here
Well,
anymore. It's pushed off to
we
them.
were not here when the first agreement was made with the temple. Since I've been mayor, I've worked with them, they've lowered it for us. I've asked them for the accommodations to get more time. I've asked them to give us flexibility in the events when we may have a holiday conflict.
At the temple for these people.
I'm sorry?
Well, if you've ever been there and you see the main room that they use on Mondays, it's quite large. And they do, huh? Yeah, at the temple, it's a
Well,
large
it's
space.
a meeting room.
It's, I mean, it's like a banquet hall almost. Yeah, it's big.
Well, they use it for multi-purposes
Yeah.
themselves. It's a much bigger space than what they would actually need.
That they're looking to have.
Well, I said they do ballroom dance, do Tai Chi, they do various different activities, and so you need space to accommodate that. That's, which is not a bad thing. I mean, you want to encourage people to be physically fit and physically active, especially as you get older. So it's not a bad, thing to have.
Put a gym in the senior center for children.
Well,
Then the whole town could be healthy.
well, maybe someday, kids.
Next to chamber, right?
Anything else, please?
I'm done.
Yes, sir.
Go home and laugh. How long will the computer be down this time?
Thank you. Lou Rocco, 191 Tenny Avenue, up the street. 25 plus years. I love this block. Going back to questions about 3 o'clock at the library being kind of the worst time,
Yeah.
I really suggest a traffic study. Because,
Well, it's pedestrian traffic. They're kids who walk there.
well, there's
I'm just saying.
but there's lots of pickups and drop-offs, and we have on this block almost 20 kids, little kids, playing in the streets, selling lemonade. It's a great block, and there are concerns about having so much traffic on Elm with a lot of my neighbors.
And I, just so everybody understands, and I appreciate all the concerns.
Sure.
I have 3 small children between 12 and 5, and I live a block and a half away.
What street do you live on?
I'm on Oak. So, and I live right across from the ball fields. So, from September to November and from March to the end of July, I understand because I have cars parked there constantly.
Right.
So I understand the concerns and I understand the need for safety. So I totally get where you're coming from, 100%. And, it's something that we're continue to look at.
And I appreciate the mayor saying that, this is evolved and you guys are all the different groups, and I get it. I get it.
It's been a long time.
We'll ask the borough engineer to talk about this more, but, and I'm not trying to I have no intention behind it, but generally, traffic studies don't come out the way people want them to.
Of course.
So, I can tell you right now, because I said I am an engineer and I've looked at these things. Trip generation for a library is higher than a trip generation for a community center. So, if somebody came and said that, everybody's saying, oh, no, it can't be. Well, but these are the standards that have been developed with hundreds and hundreds of real-life analyses. They can, and they're going to tell you that most important things are sufficient parking and safe circulation. Make sure you have clear drop-off points, things like that, which would go into the design. So, I said, we'll ask our borough engineer to give his input. And then we would have to clearly define what is meant by a traffic study, because I think that means different things to different people, as opposed to what it would mean to me as an engineer. So, I would want to make sure that we're addressing the concerns that you want to address.
Sure.
So that's.
I mean,
As we're talking about with the zoning, there's a lot of terminology that us on the technical side may use, that the public may not know or not really understand.
Yeah, I
can. So.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is safety, and my concern is kids running around, and it just really, there are a lot of kids.
Yes.
And Elm is not the largest street. If you have parking on that street, which is existing now, it's like almost like a 2-lane road. To have 80 cars coming in and out, it's something to consider.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure, 100%.
Yeah, and I hate to speculate, but it may be one of these situations where you prohibit some of the on-street parking, you know, if that's what the issue is. That would be in consultation with the police department as well, obviously.
Sure.
So,
I mean, I'm
yeah.
thinking like one of the busiest streets in New York is 34th between 6th and 7th Avenue. Well, what do they have in the middle of the block? A light.
I mean, it's definitely something that we're committed to looking at and
Sure.
trying to minimize and as we go forward. So, like I said, I have 3 small children myself, and I am definitely would never do anything that I thought would, you know, put any children in harm's way.
All right, guys, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Ben?
My name is Jane Elaine. I live at 653 Bogart. So I just wanted to ask, so am I to understand that you have this money set aside already for this project?
Yes.
In an account dedicated specifically to this?
It's allocated. We didn't borrow it at this point.
Right. And then for the ongoing cost of this facility?
The yearly cost?
The upkeep of it and the staffing?
That's a fair question. It's something that we have the architect preparing for us also. Obviously, there's going to be utility costs. Some modest, I don't know, again, he'll quantify it all for us. It'll certainly need to be cleaned and things like that. It's not a building that would require much other upkeep. Obviously, DPW would be responsible for maintaining it. They would be responsible for plowing it, you know, that kind of thing. But those are costs that are already embedded in the overall budget anyway. But it's a fair question. It's certainly part of the whole project.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked into how much the library spends for utilities in the course of the year. And for water and gas and things like that, they spend approximately $30,000 a year. This building is less than half the size. So even,
Less than
that's
6,000 versus 20,000.
Yeah, so it's significantly smaller. So I would anticipate, you know, honestly, I wouldn't anticipate more heating and cooling costs more than a large home, to be quite honest, because it's, you know, it's 1 story. So I wouldn't anticipate that. And newest technology, insulation, energy efficient heating and cooling system. So, you know, like I said, it's comparable in size really to some of the larger homes in town. So I wouldn't anticipate those costs being much more than that.
And you wouldn't have to pay rent for school?
Yes, and that would come off as well. So the
I think that would
18,000
certainly be the offset for the operating expenses.
Yeah.
Well, because I understand that there's a lot of, like, other groups and stuff that want meeting space, but there are, you know, certainly other churches and stuff. But will that really be utilized? And I do have teenagers. I don't foresee, I find that there are a lot of activities. I can't even keep up with the activities for my kids. I'm running them back and forth.
Yeah.
So whether teenagers will really come to, you know, to that, I really question.
Again, it's not being designed for that specific purpose. It's just something that we've been hearing from a lot of parents. You know, my boys are early teenagers now, and they got to an age where they didn't want to go to swim club anymore. And it seems to be happening a lot.
Yeah.
They get to that 12-ish age, and they don't want to go, and they want to go somewhere else and hang out with their friends. Our rec directors believe that she can have some programming. Again, I don't know if it's going to be full every day or how it will be set up, but maybe if they have, you know, revolving programming that may attract kids 2 days a week. I don't know. We don't know that yet in terms of the details of the programming. But like I said, our new rec director is very experienced and knowledgeable. I'll defer to her recommendations and her judgment. You know, certainly better than I in terms of the details of the program. But there may be other constituent groups that no one's even thought about yet that may have interest and need. So I guess we want to make it a usable building that can be used by various different groups. And like I said before, none of us up here want a white elephant. You don't want to build a building, like I said, look at some of these community centers that
Well, see, that's,
they don't get used.
I have lived in Riveridge for 15 years. I'm not from New Jersey. I'm not from here. And I've lived in many different locations, many different large cities, small cities, but I do find there's a trend, like we live in a throwaway society. So instead of like using the facilities that we have or reclaiming, or we just now have an empty building just 2 blocks down now, it's like we keep building out and like we'll just let this building go into disarray and then we'll go on to the next. Let's incur the debt for this and we'll build this. So like the downtowns are like falling apart and we just keep spreading out and out and out. When I look at Paramus, New Milford, all the clear cutting that's going on, I mean, those trees, having green space, the parks there, you know, maybe people don't care about that, but that also helps with, we have flooding issues in town. People have a lot of flooding in their basements. All of that I think is really important and something to consider besides just the building, but that green space, those trees that are there, and utilizing facilities that we already have, maybe before we start building new structures.
That would be, it's a fair comment. It's something that could be addressed. We don't have any other borough facilities. So whatever we would have to retrofit, we would have to purchase or lease.
Or, so we have the, where the VFW was,
Yes.
utilizing that space instead of
Well,
where
it
it's
it doesn't matter from the sense that the square footage, the parking will be parking. So
Okay.
if you put a square here and the parking here, or a square here and the parking here, it's going to take up the same footprint. There's no difference. So the controlling factor of overall design is the size of the building, because it has to be, you know, I said, scaled again, so you have something that will be flexible and usable, and then but also be able to safely accommodate the parking. So, and if you heard me mention before, we're also constraining where we're allowed to build because of conservation easements we have on our public properties.
right. But so that part, there's no conservation for where those trees are?
No, not, and I'm not saying, it may sound incongruent, but in terms of this, what they call the open space inventory, that's not included.
Right, but that's not considered?
No, I'm
Those
not saying
trees
it's not considered. I'm saying in terms of the regulation that we're under, that area is not included.
Okay. Because and like I said, like I don't find that my teenagers would necessarily come to that. And a lot of kids do go to the library, but not, and a lot of them are tutoring or they're doing their homework there. Other issues, maybe, but that's also that is a parental
There's
thing,
a lot
and
of
I don't think you
socializing,
can lay
but
that on the town, because that is a parent's responsibility to know where their kids are, and not that just because they can be hanging out behind the 7-Eleven too. And for some of this, so I've been here for 15 years, and in 15 years, my taxes have just about doubled. So I don't foresee even utilizing these services, because I won't be a member of SCORE in this town, because it's just we're going to get pushed out. I don't know about anyone else, but I don't foresee being able to retire here the rate things are going.
And I think a lot of us agree with you, and I think on the positive side, and again, past performance doesn't guarantee future or whatever, I said we've been very, very, very cognizant of the tax burden, the municipal tax burden, and we've done what we can to certainly slow the rate of growth. We've been under 2%, way below the 2% cap for several years now. Again, like Councilman Bartoloni said, we had no increase this year in the municipal tax rate. And the schools, they may get a boom from our friends down in Trenton. So I would hope that if they do get $1 million in extra aid, that they're going to turn that back to the taxpayers rather than put it into other spending. But we don't make that call.
Yeah. Okay.
So
and I look at the breakdown.
So that's another issue. But we suggest people come. We want people here hold us accountable to the budget. That's what we're here for. It just seems that people are less likely to go to school boards and press them too. And not that I'm saying they're doing anything wrong, but if nobody's going and voicing concerns, there's no impetus for them to change anything. So it's,
I agree.
we're all trying to do we're doing our part, and we try to work with schools also on other things to control costs. We have shared services with snow plowing and gyms and things like that, paid for. we have to pay for services in the school district too. You know, their custodial staff has to be paid, you know, there's all these things, so. Taxes are a problem, and I think we're all concerned that we couldn't retire here. You see so many generation after generation who were born in this town, get married in the town, have their kids, and stay. And I know, I'm sure everybody would say the same thing, that that's what we would hope to continue. You know, where I grew up on the other side of Hudson. I certainly wouldn't be able to touch the houses where my you know, neighborhood friends had grown up. The taxes are even more onerous than here. So I think we all share your concerns, and we're actually trying to do something to change that trajectory.
Okay. I think.
Yes.
I just want to say, a lot of the talk that went around when I also heard at the car show, and what I keep hearing tonight is everybody seems, a lot of people are putting emphasis on the usage of the building for more on the senior side. And as you've been stating, there's so much more that can be done with this. I'm already retired, and I would love to have a place to go to do some kind of activities, whether it be, and I'm not going to do this, but like a knitting club, or people interested in model cars, or it could be any number of things that families can do, that people that are 40, 50, 60 can do. I think the SCORE population is one of the smallest. Again, they may be underserved here, but they're one of the smallest things that we can do to help our community. And I think River Edge is a great residential community, and I think the community center, again, I agree that it needs to be done very well and, you know, the right size and not overextended, but it would be an asset to our town for people that want to move here, that can see that there's a place, that this is a community that thinks of the people that live here to try and have them do this.
I mean, we've had.
Just to
I was approached.
More underscore other things other than just very young or the very young. A lot of us in the middle.
Yes, and I was approached by a resident who, I guess in a former position, was responsible for organizing and programming an adult education series class too. And they said obviously this would be a perfect kind of facility to do that also. So you can have surveys, get some general interest, and then put together a program if you have enough people who want to do something specific. So I said, yes, we talk about the seniors because they'll be using the space during the day. There's, you know, when there's people in school or people at work, that's, you know, no one's going to say otherwise. But
do you plan on putting something out somewhere that people can read before the August meeting, so that there's some more detail, or what some of the planning is? You said that the town council had some kind of document.
he did. I'll have to go back and look at it and make sure that it's complete. I have no problem putting it out there.
Just some ideas, and maybe put on the website and let people know that you've got, here's some of the ideas that something versus not doing anything.
Anybody else? Motion to close the public?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Council comments? Let's start with Councilman Gautier.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to congratulate our members of the River Edge Volunteer Fire Department. Some brave men and women in that department that, you know, go running towards danger when everyone else would run away. And they're really a credit to our town, and really very heroic acts. I attended the Independence Day celebration on the 4th of July, and the recognition did a wonderful job putting that together. I have to say Councilman Bartolone did a great job with the program. I also attended the car show yesterday, which was it definitely is one of the best car shows I've ever attended, and they did a wonderful job. So I'm going to go back. And on Saturday, I'm going to be attending the first annual Riverdale Junior Wrestling tournament. at Riverdale High School, and that's also an Eagle Scout project. Yeah, so it should be a good event, and proceeds are going to go towards new mats. All right, so, thank you.
Councilman Bartoloni?
Thank you, Mayor. I feel like I got a lot. 4th of July is over, and I am very happy about that. I think it went off very well, considering for a lot of us it was really the first year doing it alone, without Bobby, who we did not call to ask any advice, so there was no, just to make that clear. Started it off kind of doing it by myself and whatnot, and then Carolyn, our new rec director, she really took the ball and ran with it the last 2 months in terms of getting sponsors and vendors and everything like that, so big thank you to her. It seemed like it was well attended. I was in the beer garden with the Knights, and I don't know, it was hot and people were thirsty apparently because we couldn't keep up, and I know AOH ran out of food. They sold out completely. So definitely I think it was a good event and well received. Tomorrow, G&G is coming in to install the equipment here for the television cameras. So that is underway tomorrow, and in the afternoon there's going to be some training, so I don't know, I may stop by to get trained on how to use the equipment, and Stephanie will be here too, so we'll get some training on that.
Council chambers is Councilman Bartoloni.
Yeah, we may have to try it out, so if you see anything on, Verizon's channel tomorrow, I'll let everybody know, but at least that's getting done. And there's a few components that we still need to work out. Mr. Connors pointed out the sound equipment will be upgraded as part of this, but we have to kind of source out the funds for that first. I also want to congratulate Lieutenant Nearhood and Firefighter Nearhood and Captain Carroll. I was actually on the scene of that fire. I happened to just be driving down Kinderkamak, and I have a picture of them actually scaling the ladder going up to the roof, because I was absolutely amazed. That was a tremendous house fire. I mean, just the degree of it is beyond comprehension. And also the work that they did this last week with the signage collapse on Kinderkamak was fabulous. Chief O'Connell, I know he's retired from his main job, but if he retires from this, he could have a career in broadcasting. I don't know if everybody saw him on TV.
He's a natural.
He was a natural in front of the cameras. Every local station was there covering him. They covered the mayor, saw him on TV as well. Good job for the mayor. Just a funny thing, he did not.
Thank you for identifying him.
He did not want to be on camera. So I went over to the Verizon One reporter, and I said, just so you know, the mayor's over there if you want to talk to him. And she absolutely did, and so you're welcome for that. But our first responders did a fantastic job, and also I do want to recognize Officer Zemides, because he was actually the first one on the scene, and he really did a fantastic job in terms of mobilizing the response to the scene. So he was here before he left, but I do want to recognize his efforts in that as well. And then, just in terms of, we'll have the meeting on the 13th about the community center, and I do look forward to that discussion, and I do look forward to the conversations that we have with people. And I just want to make it so clear that, one, I have 3 children. Like I said, I live around the corner from where this is going to go. I would never, ever want to build something or be a part of something that would in any way endanger any children. 2, I'm overly concerned always about costs, debt limits. With Alan's help, we wrote the policy for the debt limit in River Edge, and so I am always aware of the cost of projects and how it will be funded going into the future and what the cost may be. and that impact on the average resident. Whenever I think of money that we spend in terms of $3,000 to $4,000 increments, because I always recognize that that's the municipal portion that somebody's paying from their property taxes to us. So anytime even that amount is spent, I recognize that's somebody's house, that somebody is paying that much in taxes this year. So I'm very cognizant of it. And but I'm also, and you can sense this, very passionate about this project as well. We've invested a lot of personal time into this project for a very long time. So if you hear that from me, I am personally vested in it. And when we're having these conversations, I miss Vito so much because I can kind of hear him in my ear a lot of times when we're talking about this. And so so if you hear that's just where that's coming from. It's not meant to be disrespectful. I've invested a lot of personal time in this, and it's something that I very much want to get done, because I do ultimately think it's going to be a huge benefit to the town. I really do. So that's just what I have to say.
Thank you. Just to echo the congratulations and the thanks to our first responders, particularly Tim Carroll and Tyler Nearhout, who responded to the fire in Oradell and saved someone, which is an overwhelming thing to have done. And so thank you to them and to all the first responders, particularly also on Kinderconnect Road last week. It was a tremendous response to a really near tragic event, and we were very fortunate that no one was injured or lost their lives. And thank them very much. The car show was wonderful. I have a habit of going in the morning because it's always super hot. So I was in and out by 10 o'clock, but it was wonderful. And I ran into a friend I hadn't seen in a while who had never been to the car show, and she said, "This is why I love Riverhead." So that was great. Just an update on the Trex Challenge, which is the plastic film recycling program that we have going on in the borough. We're looking to gather 500 pounds of plastic film to get it out of the garbage and into recycling. They've collected over 200 pounds so far, so please keep up your plastic film, especially if you're having a barbecue. Don't throw your ice bags away. Bring them to Trex Recycling. I just want to say that I'm very proud of this council, to be part of this council who is working so hard to bring a positive project to fruition for our residents, but also proud that this council takes the time to listen to its residents and make sure that there is an opportunity, which will be happening in August, to have our professionals here to be able to respond to questions and concerns, to make sure that this is the best project for as many people as possible as it goes forward. And I'm also excited that it's going to go forward, but to do so responsibly. So I just want to thank my colleagues for their efforts and their ongoing efforts.
Liz? First of all, I'd like to echo again thanks to the fire department for the great work that they did up in Oradell, to Firefighter Mearhout, and to Lieutenant Carroll. Did an amazing job in saving that guy, and continuing to do the job after it was over. Secondly, the partial building collapse on Kinderconnect Road, to police officer Zimides, who was riding to the car wash in the police car and noticed the dust and thought, I wonder what this is, and so right on it. And all of our first responders, and additions from Paramus, Jersey City, Hackensack, everybody just worked like we had practiced it the week before. It was an amazing show. And as I said before, the fire department had one busy day that day. The farmers market tomorrow looks like we're going to have a nice day, not so last week. I'm going to try to yoga again.
You're personally trying to yoga, or the market is trying to yoga?
Excuse me?
Are you doing yoga personally, or is it a yoga
having root canal was really, you don't want to know the truth. And I do yoga. Anyway, so it's another added attraction. We've worked very hard with the farmers market to get it going, and sometimes vendors say they're not making enough money, so they don't come back. But the ones we have now are very loyal and seem to be happy. Great parade on the 4th of July. Congratulations again to Bobby Conway as Grand Marshal, and also to Al, who did an excellent job in getting it together, and as MC that day. You really did an excellent job. Car show yesterday was great. A couple of people said it was the best one that they had ever been at. Score, I went there today. I wanted to let them know about that Do Not Knock program that we have, and they were very excited. And I would say there were 20 to 25 people. They did start something new, an English speaking class, and they had 4 people in it today. It was the first class, so there's many things that they want to do. They're not all crazy about being where they are. And lastly, I would just like to say that I truly get frustrated with social media. Social media can be a wonderful thing, but so much is said of social media that is not true and not accurate, and it just frustrates me. And this council came together to take the discussion off the market tonight so that we can make sure that we hear all of our citizens' issues and input, and there's nothing more that we want than to have this building be as perfect as it can be, and giving the residents really what they want and a place to call their own. And we're working very hard to do that. And as everybody has acknowledged, this has been going on since long before I was up here. And I'm very proud of, like Ellen said, of the way we as a council are working to do the best. And safety is our top priority. And I also think that we need to work a little more on getting on the website the information that we want out there, because it's not coming through social media properly. So if we can get to work on that, I think it would, we'll have a lot of things that are in progress. We need to, try to do. I'm on 4 boards of directors in my many hats, and communication is always the worst issue. And I think that we have it here also.
Be brief. Captain Bartoloni, 4th of July. Again, thank you. It was a role I don't think you expected to take or have to take on, and I'm sure you started planning for next year already. Car show. It's a very good event, and I always like to express thanks and appreciation to the residents on Continental Avenue who have their access to their homes blocked off so they can have this event. So I appreciate their patience and their willingness to do this so we can have this event go forward. The Crest Plaza disaster, and Chief O'Connell took the line. He said it was the holiday miracle, and if I heard him say it, I couldn't say it after that. But he was absolutely spot on. For the grace of God, we didn't have any injuries or anybody killed. If you saw the aftermath, it could have been really bad. Had it been morning time where people going in and out of the bagel store, picking up their dry cleaning, dropping it off, or lunchtime where Joyce Chinese and these other places are very busy, it could have been a very, very different outcome. And I think that's why we can make it a little bit more lighthearted about what went on, because it was, again, a miracle. And again, it goes to show that what happened with Oradell and the firemen here and that day, I think people sometimes, it doesn't seem realistic that our emergency services workers are really in danger. they're in danger every time they leave their house to do their job. And, you know, when Mr. Carroll and Ms. Newton went to that call, they had no idea what was going to happen, and they know that they were at personal risk. And also what happened down at the Crest Plaza. So it's, no matter how small of an incident, there's always a huge risk, and we'll always be especially thankful and appreciative of their service. Last, I'm just going to echo Councilwoman Davis's comments about the social media. I agree with you also. It's a very, could be a very, very positive way to communicate. But it's hard to have a clear, objective debate when people either, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, just put forth information that they may think is true, or start coming up with, again, I've been accused of any other kind of malfeasance for why I do a million things in this town, and again, comes with the territory. But I don't know why people would expect to be able to have a civil conversation if it's coming in that we're doing what we do for some nefarious reasons. So I think there's some responsibility on the people who post and how they respond. And I thought tonight's conversation were very civil. I hope people found that they got some of the answers. I know I probably couldn't answer all their questions to their satisfaction. We're trying. And, you know, like you said, it's, again, I've been up here 8 years. I can't think of a single issue where everybody, both parties, different mayors, everybody has been in support of doing something like this for the past 8 years. People have run campaigns promising to bring this project to fruition, both sides of the aisle. It's something that's been talked about, and we'll do our best to address everybody's concerns, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do that and bring something that the town does want based on a lot of feedback we've gotten, and something that I think will be a very, very attractive asset to the borough, and again, be something that we'll all be proud of going into the future. So hopefully we'll move forward with that positively. I guess that's all I have tonight. Oh, the other thing I'm going to say, in the interest of transparency, I've always said, people can't come here, we know that, and we know that the printed media is not very effective these days. I can't get a record reporter to report anything, and let's talk about what happened to Town News. So, and I've said just since my first campaign, if people can't come to their government, we should be able to use technology to bring it to you. We tried, or we can try. We did institute our videotaping that we put on the website and on YouTube. We know it's not the best quality. We know it's not the best sound linkage, but it is a effort towards being transparent. The other thing that I've been a strong advocate for a number of years, as Councilman Bartoloni has, is getting us on public access TV. I think that goes a long way. Let people watch the meeting. They'll hear exactly what I said, or what Councilman Davis said, or what Councilman Gautier said. And there's less chance then for people either mishearing or misrepresenting what was actually expressed at the meeting. So I look forward to that, and I hope that it's going to be something that people will see as a useful tool and not try to use it to cause problems, as sometimes towns have told me. But I think, in my opinion, that I'd rather have it than not. And I said I think it will be a very good, another good way for us to get information out to the public. With that, like a motion to adjourn, please.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?